The way you live your life, the things that we've been told are safe, in many cases are simply not safe. And that's why so many of us are sick.
Who do you know with diabetes, with heart disease, who's had a stroke, who's had cancer, dementia? All of those conditions are preventable.
This is not normal. We should not see the rise in these diseases as something like, oh, it just happens.
We form about 10,000 microscopic cancers every single day as little pimples in our body that never bother us. There are 10,000 mistakes made in our DNA's copy-paste. It doesn't get caught, just natural. We make so much about genetics and testing for cancer genes. Actually, genetics play 5% of our fate. 95% lies in our hands. This is breaking news. Our body is hardwired with health defense systems. When our defenses go down, that's when the bad guys come in. Microplastics that we're eating and breathing and washing into our hair, inflammation in our body, are like gasoline on the embers of a fire. We got a real problem here. We actually have the potential of preventing and fighting and also overcoming and reversing many of the diseases that previously we just either succumbed to or outsourcing our care to a specialist.
What you're telling us is, guess what? The days of pretending like it's fine are over.
This global wake-up call that we all actually have the agency. The power of actually health starts with us and not in the health system.
Before we dive into today's episode, I'm going to ask you to do something very quick, very easy, but super helpful. I'm going to ask you to hit the subscribe button. You see it? Go get it. Hit the subscribe button. It just takes a second, but it means a lot to us. You have probably noticed from all of the comments that we get, many people find that listening to MBB regularly is helping them feel happier, healthier, more inspired. And you know what? That actually is why we are doing this. It makes my heart swell to hear that so many of you are feeling inspired. So subscribing to this show, whether you're listening on YouTube or whether you're listening to it through a podcast app, it's the easiest way to ensure that you will never miss an episode. So we don't want you to miss a single one, and you don't want to miss a single one. So you'll get notified as soon as a new episode drops. All you have to do is subscribe and share this episode with someone if you enjoy it. We're trying to spread the word. Help us do that. The best way to support our show is by subscribing. So do it now. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. Let's get back to the good stuff. Hi, I'm Mayim Bialik.
I'm Jonathan Cohen.
Welcome to our breakdown. Before we get into what we're breaking down today, we want to impress upon you how important it is for you to tune in next week. We have an exciting announcement about the podcast that we are so excited to share. We've been gearing up to announce this for quite some time. So please tune in next week. We cannot wait to share this extremely exciting announcement. With that, let's talk about what we're breaking down today.
What if getting sick was only determined by 5% of your genetics and the rest was actually fully in your control?
Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most pressing concerns that many of us have as humans when we think about what to eat and how.
And this impacts not only our physical well-being, but our emotional well-being. We talk about the connection between our physical health and our mental health, specifically with regards to the gut-brain connection.
We're also going to talk about something that I'm fascinated by. Why are so many young people getting cancer? Is there anything we can understand about our diets that might be contributing or that can help us prevent, delay, or repair our bodies when they have experienced a trauma?
What if our health was much more in our control than we have ever known? What if we can eat in a way to increase our natural defenses, to repair cancer, to be healthy, to increase our immune system?
We're also going to be talking about metabolism. What are we getting wrong about weight loss? What are we getting wrong about fat? And the person who's going to explain all of this and more is William W. Lee, MD. He's an internationally renowned physician. He's a scientist, and he's the author of Eat to Beat Disease, Eat to Beat Your Diet. His groundbreaking research has led to the development of more than 40 new medical treatments. He is an expert in vascular science, in particular, how it impacts things like cancer, hypertension, diabetes. His TED Talk, Can We Eat to Starve Cancer, has more than 11 million views. He's the president and medical director of the Angiogenesis Foundation. He is leading global initiatives on food as medicine. We cannot wait to welcome him to The Breakdown. Welcome, Dr. Lee.
Break it down.
Hello, Mayim. How are you?
Thank you so much for being here. We're very excited to talk to you about so many aspects of eating to beat my diet, my life, everybody's. I wonder if we can start with what are some of the challenges that you encountered when trying to help people understand myths about what we've been told about food?
Big question. So I will tell you, I come at this as a physician. I'm an MD. I'm trained in internal medicine. So I'm supposed to be able to talk to patients about a variety of health topics. But actually, doctors are trained to talk to patients about disease, not about health, and about drugs, not about food. And so, like many people who have gotten into the health and food space, I've had to learn a new lexicon and also how to communicate that lexicon to people so they can actually receive that information and use it in a meaningful way. I'm also a scientist. I'm a vascular biologist, meaning I study blood vessels, and there's 60,000 miles worth of blood vessels in our body. And these are the highways and byways of our nutrients, as well as the oxygen that we breathe. And so my worldview on sort of how to communicate about food as medicine and food as not just part of our diet, but part of our everyday health has really been to explain food as fuel that we need for energy. We eat it the same way we eat our fuel, the same way that we would actually put petrol or gasoline into our car to give us energy. And then we drive off in the car in the way that we drive off with our body. And how our body uses that energy is very much similar to the guts of a car that most people don't see. But if you're a mechanic, you really understand how every part of that works. And most of us journey through most of our lives as if we were sitting in a car without any problems. But when you hear that rattling, when you hear that knocking, when you feel something not working right, suddenly that's all you can think about is what's going on. I need to get to a service station to have my body looked at. And although you can take apart the entire car and we can actually go into the body to look for problems, the benefit of food is really putting that good quality fuel in our body in the first place and making sure that overall we're maintaining the mechanics of our body, the biology of our body, everything from our gut to our brain to our muscles to our vascular system in the very best way possible. And I think that's where we are arriving as a society, is really this kind of national global wake-up call that we all actually have the agency. The power of actually health starts with us and not in the health system.
It's a really helpful framework, and one that, I'll be honest, is completely foreign to me. I was raised with this notion of like, just live your life and hope that nothing goes wrong. And if something goes wrong, there's a specialist, at Kaiser that you need to get a referral for, and they will, treat the particular part of you that's not working, that's misbehaving, whatever it is. To go on with this car analogy, every mechanic knows that if one thing goes wrong in a car, it's going to have downstream effects. We don't operate that way when we think about our body at all. And that's literally still how a lot of medicine, I think, is practiced, is like, oh, you have an allergy problem? Let's stop your histamines from behaving. Oh, you have a thyroid problem? Let's shut it down. I have Graves' disease, so that's my that's my thyroid reference. It's only when people like you, right, start talking to us about sort of the global picture of health And it's only when people have complicated things like autoimmune conditions that we start going outside of the realms of traditional understanding and try and access what's going on in the whole body. So can you speak a little bit, especially with your, your scientific background, your research background, what is it about this whole body system that we don't understand?
Wow. Okay. So listen, I'm a vascular biologist talking to a neuroscientist to a broad audience, and and you're telling me that there are things that are new to you, and I'm telling you that there are things that are new to me. So I think for everyone watching or listening, let's just face it. We are still discovering new things about the human body on literally a weekly basis. And that's actually a remarkable thing, and maybe news to some people, that we're still discovering new organs in our body. The interstitium, the space between our organs, is actually an organ itself that communicates hormones and all kinds of other important things. We're just still discovering new cells, cell types in our hearts and in our brain. I don't know, Mayim, if you have seen the news about the new rose hip neuron that was discovered in the brain. And it actually looks like a rose hip, what you would put for herbal tea. And it is one of those new nerves that is now being discovered to help counter our natural tendency to be depressed. So again, new discoveries, layers of the onions being peeled back every single day. And so what I think is both humbling and exciting is the fact that we have a whole inner potential in our body that Mother Nature provided each and every one of us. We are hardwired for success. We are hardwired for health. We actually have the potential of preventing and fighting, and also overcoming and reversing many of the diseases that previously we just either succumbed to by saying, well, I don't know what else we could do, or outsourcing our care to a specialist, as you say. Now, look, there's nothing wrong with actually going to a specialist who will have an inch wide and a mile deep expertise in an area. But herein lies the problem. While we go to the experts for these really narrow band, very deep expertise, you lost the forest for the trees, and you then can't figure out how the hip bone is connected to the rest of the body. And I think that old kind of idea that our the interconnectedness of us, you can't talk about the brain without talking about the heart, without talking about the gut, without talking about the muscles, and without talking about your hormones. And this is, I think, the more enlightened modern view of medicine. Forget about people in my generation or yours, out there practicing medicine. Look, we came out of the Stone Age of teaching. I think that the new, young, next generation of doctors that are going to be hitting the pavement, over the next few years, they themselves are already cottoning on to the fact that the secrets to health already lie within our body. What we have to do is crack open the textbooks, the new textbooks that are being written, to figure out how we can actually harness those to our own benefit. Only some of which is actually in the hands of the health system, much of which is actually in our own hands at home.
Mayim Bialik's breakdown is supported by Helix Sleep. I have been that person who has had every problem with sleep. We can't tell you how excited we were to hear that Helix wanted to partner with us so many years ago. We've gotten incredible feedback about them over the years, but they fixed all of the problems I was having with sleep. I've had my Helix for almost 4 years now. Jonathan and my kids also have Helix mattresses. Everybody is happier sleeping on a Helix. The general vibe is that it just feels better and more exciting to get into bed. We highly recommend taking the Helix sleep quiz like we did to find your perfect mattress in under 2 minutes. Everyone sleeps differently, and we are confident you'll find the model specifically designed for your sleep positions and feel preferences. For example, I'm a midnight person because I like something firm and I generally sleep on my side. Jonathan's a twilight because he sleeps sometimes on his back, sometimes on his tummy when he's feeling naughty. Their models with memory foam layers provide optimal pressure pressure relief and cradle our body in the areas that we need most. It's the perfect combination of comfort and support. Jonathan loves the cooling features of his Helix mattress that keep him from overheating at night. Go to helixsleep.com/breakdown for 27% off site-wide and a free bedding bundle, which includes a sheet set and mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. This is an exclusive offer for listeners of Mayim Bialik's Breakdown. That's helixsleep.com/breakdown for 27% off site-wide and your free bedding bundle with a sheet set and mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. Again, this offer is exclusive for listeners of Mayim Bialik's Breakdown. helixsleep.com/breakdown. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Shopify. Starting your own business can be intimidating and downright stressful, thanks to all the hats you suddenly have to learn to wear. When we started this podcast, for example, it seemed like we had to figure everything out on our own. Between booking guests, filming, branding design, releasing episodes, it was overwhelming, and every day seemed to introduce a new decision that needed an answer. We so wish we had found Shopify then, but thankfully we have it now. Finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything is a total game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark, and brands that are just getting started, to an indie podcast like Mayim Bialik's Breakdown. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand style. Accelerate your content creation. Shopify's packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. Best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial. Start selling today at shopify.com/breakdown. Go to shopify.com/breakdown. Shopify.com/breakdown. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by BetterHelp. Societal views on therapy have shifted so much throughout the years, even just in the time that Jonathan and I have been doing this podcast. There's been a huge reduction in the stigma and just talking about mental health and mental health challenges, which we're so glad to be a part of. Mental health awareness is growing, but there's still progress to be made. A recent study found that 26% of Americans are avoiding seeking mental health support because of fear of judgment. We've got to get over that stigma. It's so hard to say, I need help, but the rewards are so many. And I have to believe that we're in a better trend of understanding how important therapy is, not just for us, but for our communities, for our workplace, for everything around us. BetterHelp has over 10 years of experience matching people with the right therapist from their diverse network of more than 30,000 licensed therapists with a wide range of specialties. BetterHelp's fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. You can easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. We're all better with help. Visit betterhelp.com/break to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/break.
Talk a little bit about how we are hardwired, because I think people want to believe that they have the ability to heal. We hear more and more about this, and yet so many younger people are experiencing cancer. The epidemics of seemingly preventable diseases are increasing. And I think some people are like, well, is my body just broken? Do I have that ability to heal? Talk to us a little bit about the discrepancy between those two, or how we are hardwired to be resilient and to heal ourselves.
Yeah, well, this has been the focus of my research for the last 30 years. And I wrote a book, Eat to Beat Disease, that actually directly addresses this. So first of all, as a doctor, my patients, when I diagnose a health condition, a disease on them, they always ask, why me? What did I do? What could I have avoided? What happened to me? Right? That's natural. It's human nature. And nowhere does that become more profound than when you actually receive a diagnosis of cancer. I'm also a cancer researcher. I've been involved with, helping to develop cancer, over a dozen cancer treatments. So I know a lot about the field of cancer. And in the health and wellness field, I can tell you, people tiptoe around the topic of cancer because it's so scary and overwhelming and seemingly unknown. But I can tell you, as a cancer researcher, I have no problem wading right into that jungle to talk about what we do know and don't know. Okay, so when a cancer patient asks me, why did I get breast cancer or colon cancer? And you talked about, young people getting cancers that shouldn't be in young people, like colon cancer. I'm going to come back in a second, because just this week there's a new discovery that's out that is jaw-dropping about what might be going on there. And it has to do with our body's health defenses. All right. So, so I might be breaking some news for you guys to translate it anyway for your audience. But here's the thing. I try my best in those circumstances to give an explanation to a patient, a cancer patient, newly diagnosed cancer patient, what might have happened, and trying to make it not their fault, but really kind of showing that, in fact, most likely there is some breakdown in a system that was defending us against cancer. When I go back home or I leave that patient, I don't ask why they got cancer as a researcher. I ask a different question. The question I ask is, why don't we get cancer? We all get cancer more often. How come everybody doesn't get cancer? How come more people don't get cancer left and right? Think about it. You go outside, and you know that if you actually lay out in the sun and get repeated sunburns, you're going to high risk for melanoma, skin cancer. But that's the same sunshine that if you're stuck on the highway in Los Angeles commuting for a few hours every day with the sun hitting your face, how come you don't get skin cancer on your face? Or an airline pilot who's actually flying above the clouds and being exposed to ultraviolet radiation, how come they don't get cancer more often? Or what about the off-gassing from the new car? If you work in a car factory, or the carpet, or the brand new clothing that you're wearing. How come we don't actually pop up with more cancers? Well, the answer to cancer is, in fact, we do develop cancers all the time. And here's how. And it's only because our body's hardwired with health defenses that it doesn't turn into a clinical problem. So let me kind of set it out for you, just as an example of how powerful our health defenses are. Our body's made of about 40 trillion human cells. It's a lot of cells, okay, packed and molded together into our organs and then packed inside our skin, all right? In order for us to stay alive and to be around tomorrow, our cells, our body have to copy and paste itself so that we're still around. Because we lose our old cells, we get new ones. That's why we're still here today compared to yesterday, and why we'll still be here tomorrow. Now, copy and pasting is a big task, as anyone knows. If you had to copy one sentence 10 times, you'll probably get it perfect. If I asked you to copy it 100 times, you might make one mistake. If I asked you to copy it 40 trillion times, guarantee you there's going to be spell checking all over the place. Well, our body's spell check is our health defense to repair errors in that copy pasting. That's our DNA repairing itself. Okay. But every single day, every 24 hours, there are 10,000 mistakes made in our DNA's copy paste. It doesn't get caught. Just natural. Okay. And those little tiny mistakes are mutations. Those mutations are microscopic cancers. So in fact, in theory, we form about 10,000 microscopic cancers every single day as little pimples in our body that never bother us. We'll never see them. It's kind of like a pimple that forms on your back. Can't see it, can't feel it, not a big deal. Eventually your body will take care of it and your skin will clear up and you won't even know you had it. And that's the power of our health defense. Here are some of our health defenses. Our body has this incredible immune system that basically patrols our body, every corridor in our body, like a suburban street cop on a beat, driving up and down a peaceful neighborhood, looking for problems. And when they see that individual who looks like a drug dealer hanging out in the corner where they shouldn't be, they stick them in a paddy wagon and take them away. All right. And that's basically how our immune system cleans up, surveys and cleans up microscopic cancers. Oops, you missed one of those bad guys. Guess what? Our body has another health defense. It involves blood vessels, because cancers without blood vessels have no nutrition, no oxygen. They cannot get big. All right. And this is the field I studied. So our body has a natural ability to control angiogenesis, how the body grows blood vessels, our circulation. So if you try to make sure any bad guys that are sticking around can't get a blood supply, no problem. It still stays there, stuck in place, tiny, until your immune system sees it the second time they make their rounds to look for the bad guys. All right. We also have the ability to lower inflammation, because we know that inflammation is one of those triggers that, whether you have autoimmune disease, whether you have cardiovascular disease, whether you have diabetes, whether you have cancer, inflammation in our body is like pouring gasoline onto the embers of a fire. Whatever's going on is going to flare up 10 times, 100 times worse. So how do we naturally lower inflammation? Our gut microbiome, our healthy gut bacteria, actually lowers inflammation, among other things that our gut bacteria does. And then, other things that are really quite amazing is our body can regenerate itself, and we can rebuild our own tissues from the inside out as another way of repairing ourselves. So our circulation, our stem cells to regenerate, our gut, our DNA to repair and prevent damage, and our immune system, which can lower inflammation and boost those street cops that actually patrol to protect us from invaders, okay, and infections. They are the 5 core health defense systems in our body. And the reason that we don't get sick more often, and the reason we don't get cancer more often, is that these systems are raring to go from the day we're born until our very last breath. They are firing on all cylinders to protect our health. And the great news is that while medicines can manipulate these health defenses a little bit, our diet and lifestyle have a much larger role.
So much has changed, in the last, let's say, 50 years, right? I think about technology. I think about workload. Think about also the demands of a modern society and new social pressures, things like that. Besides the fact that people are living longer, not necessarily living longer and better, but in many cases we are, it does seem like a lot more people are getting cancer than used to get cancer. Meaning, I grew up in the era when it was still whispered. My grandmother had breast cancer, somewhere in the 1950s, and no one talked about it. They did a radical mastectomy. That's just what they did, and no one talked about it. It seems like so many people are getting cancer. This cannot be the normal evolution of our genome in 50 years. Can you talk about some of the larger factors that are shifting why we're seeing so much more cancer?
Yeah, so let's address one of these stunning observations that younger and younger people are getting colon cancer, which used to be when I was in medical school and in training, colon cancer was not that common in 50s, more common in the 60s, even more common in the 70s. And now we're seeing teenagers with colon cancer and people who are 20-year-old. It's stunning and seemingly inexplicable. Let me give you the big picture of what might be going on first. First is our environment has changed. Our environment has become a much more hostile environment that actually uh, uh, breaks down our body's health defenses. Okay, when your immune system is broken down, you have fewer cops on the beat looking for those bad guys, those bad cells that might be in the body. When you're exposed to more inflammation caused by toxins in the environment, microplastics that we're eating and breathing and washing into our hair and getting into our mouth and washing our silverware with, like those microplastics causing inflammation in our body are like gasoline on the embers of a fire around a cancer to spark and make it grow faster, more and faster, right? So those kinds of environmental insults, and also causing more DNA damage, making it harder for your body to repair. I told you that copy paste problem is just on a basic copy paste. Now throw in something that's going to gum up the copy and pasting and cause more mutations, and we got a real problem here.
I mean, I want to press pause here. This is a huge, huge statement that you are making, meaning you are literally saying that there's not a mystery here. As Gabor Mate, said when he was here, this is not normal. We should not see the rise in cancer, the rise in these diseases as something like, oh, it just happens. You're actually proposing, guess what? The way you live your life, the stress that you're under, the things that we've been told are safe, in many cases are simply not safe. And it's not just the hippies who are refusing to use those shampoos or those soaps or whatever. It's not just the hippies being paranoid, that this is a mainstream problem, the downstream effects of which are increased inflammation, increased mutation, and that's why so many of us are sick.
This is a new study that just came out this week that that looked at. It was a big study published in Nature that looked at people who were older getting with colorectal cancer versus people that are uh, uh, younger, and doing a genome assessment and to look at what's going on. It turns out the genes, the mutations in people with young colorectal cancer are different type of mutation than the standard older individuals colon cancer. And what was really um, stunning in this discovery is that the genes that are being damaged in the younger people look like they're being damaged from a specific toxin. The toxin is actually called colibactin, okay? Colibactin. And colibactin is a toxin, it's a protein that's released from, wait for it, E. coli. And the E. coli exposures seem to be in the first 10 years of life. And so here's an example where young kids possibly being exposed to more E. coli that then reside in the colon, releasing toxins up through the age of 10. I mean, these are kids, all right? They can't drive yet, all right? They're not adults. That this lingering toxin that builds up over time is causing more and more DNA damage that piles up, and bada bing, you're talking about in the late teens into the early 20s or 30s, leading to the discovery that these are the kinds of mutations that this toxin is actually causing. So this is a new discovery, by the way. Again, speaking to the environment, speaking to the fact that having a harmful bacteria releasing a toxin overcomes our body's ability to repair that DNA, overcomes maybe good, healthy bacteria to overcome the E. coli. So we're just at the beginning of having the first smoking gun clues, at least for the colon cancer in young people. A lot of people have been speculating all kinds of things, but this run discovery, I think, is really important. It's definitely worth pursuing further.
How are people getting exposed to the E. coli?
Well, so E. coli there's different types of E. coli. And, again, this is breaking news. And so now as the scientific community, we got to go back and ask exactly that question. So it would not be appropriate for me to kind of be smarty pants and tell you that answer. But what I will say is that E. coli can come from fruits and vegetables. They can come from our foods that are not properly washed, okay, that are not properly cared for or stored. They can come from contamination, right? So let me ask you this, John. I don't know if you on your sink, when you wash your dishes, if you have a sponge, and how often do you change that sponge?
I don't use a sponge just for this reason.
We don't use sponges. We're crazy people. We don't even use sponges.
Okay. But I bet if you ask the listener if they have a sponge, I bet they do. And
They're
if you ask
washing
them
their vegetables with a moldy E. coli infested sponge.
Right. Or on a cutting board that they actually haven't.
Also, is this also undercooked beef, right? Can have E. coli, and everybody's favorite conversation, don't tell RFK Jr., unpasteurized dairy.
That's right. I mean, listen, this is one of humankind's greatest advances over recorded modern history is being able to make our food safer, right? I mean, listen, we are not knights from the medieval age, eating, raw bones, not gnawing on raw bones over a campfire outside of a castle that we're going to invade.
Speak for yourself.
Well, listen, I know you don't have the sponges, but so the idea is that we can't, listen, public health science, our ability to advance as humans builds brick upon brick upon brick. And I think one of the things that we really need to be able to do is to appreciate just how many bricks we've already built to be able to understand how to become safer. And in some cases, we need to take a pause in terms of advancement and go back and look at like how we've actually built our wall.
Are people washing their fruit wrong? One of the greatest and most common arguments I have with my son is we leave the grocery store and he's eating the grapes out of the bag before he's washed them. And I'm like, you should wash them. And he's like, it's just a few. What's the problem?
Well, listen, let me reassure you that for the most part, what's sold in grocery stores in the United States are pretty safe to eat. And actually, arguably a little dirt's actually good for us. A little bacterial challenge is good for us.
Where I get my
Actually,
B12.
yeah. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger, right? I mean, that's the adage, and kind of true. You know what? By the way, we're finding out now that children who are kind of raised by paranoid parents in hermetically sealed environments, their immune system isn't as strong as they get to be young adults and older adults.
This is what I wanted to ask about, because in the name of safety, what has happened is we have gotten an entire industry that is built around antibacterial stuff, antibiotics in all the places, all the antibiotics whenever you have a virus. Like, this is something that has become, it's its own sickness, that everyone thinks that the more sterile and the more medication and the more shutting systems down, the better we're going to be. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. And I am a person who believes in vaccines, but a lot of the conversation around vaccines is also geared around this kind of conversation, right? Don't ever get sick. I mean, I was talking to my kid the other day about how he's never had a flu shot. He's like, maybe I need one. And I said, maybe sometimes people get the flu and they get better. We were talking about how many COVID vaccines do we need to get? And I'm not trying to get political, but this is sort of part of the thinking is that, we need more cleanliness and more regulation, and we want to be safe and wash your meat, throw out your sponges. But where is that line? And how do we communicate to more people the nuance here? Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Thrive Causemetics. I've been really liking this new makeup trend of lining the top lid with a bold color like a yellow, or I really like the deep blue. Seems like a simple trick, but it makes a statement while still looking sleek and professional. It strikes me every time I see it, and I think I'm going to try it sometime soon. Whether you're all about simple mascara and gloss, or you like to play with bold shapes and colors, there's always a trusty favorite you use for every look. Thrive Causemetics makes certified 100% vegan and cruelty-free products that you can depend on for everything, from simple daily wear to show-stopping self-expression. It's all made with clean, skin-loving ingredients, high performance and trademarked formulas, and uncompromising standards. One of my favorite things about Thrive Causemetics, they give back to a ton of causes that are important to so many of us, like cancer, domestic abuse, homelessness and poverty, and racial and social justice. For every product purchase, Thrive Causemetics donates products and funds to help communities thrive. One of my favorite Thrive products is their Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara. It makes such a difference, and people always ask what I've got on my lashes when I'm wearing it. I love that it gives me fuller lashes without heaviness and clumping. It's easy to remove. Thrive's unique formula creates tubes around each eyelash to lengthen them, and nourishing ingredients support longer, stronger, healthier looking lashes over time. Try your new trusty favorites with an exclusive set for our listeners. New customers can get the Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara and a mini-sized Brilliant Eye Brightener at a special set price with free shipping, available at thrivecosmetics.com/MBB, or save more with 20% off your first order at thrivecosmetics.com/MBB. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/MBB for 20% off your first order. I love my cats more than anything. If you've listened to this podcast, you know that that's true. I would do anything to keep them as happy and healthy as possible. And today's episode is sponsored by the ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program. Your pet is part of your family, and you want the best for them no matter what, but vet bills can certainly add up. That's why you should check out pet insurance. With ASPCA Pet Health Insurance, you can focus on the care your pet deserves and cover what matters most. The ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program offers customizable accident and illness plans, making it easier for pet parents like you to help your pet get the care that they may need. The ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program has been around for about 18 years, and they've helped more than 600,000 pets during that time. You can customize your plan, helping ensure that your pet's plan is as unique as they are. Vet bills can really add up, especially when you're least expecting it. It's simple. You use their app to submit a claim, and you'll receive reimbursement for eligible vet bills directly into your bank account. To explore coverage, visit ASPCAPetInsurance.com/break. That's ASPCAPetInsurance.com/break aspca.com/break. Again, that's aspcapetinsurance.com/break. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independence American Insurance Company or United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and is not engaged in the business of insurance.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, let me add a little kindling to the fire you just set by saying, let's take it to the biohacker level. How many people need a glucose implantable monitor? How many people need infrared light? How many people need a cold plunge? You can keep
This guy,
stacking and
you're
stacking.
looking at him. You're looking at the man who needs all the things.
Okay, and what I'm actually trying to get back to is, as a scientist and as a doctor who's really trying to um, uh, kind of go to the future by reflecting on the past, is that I think we need to go back to basics to understand that health starts inside our body. We are born hardwired with these health defenses. Our metabolism is also hardwired into us, and we can talk about the common misunderstandings about how human metabolism works that are now being overturned. There's a lot of, I think throughout history, there's always been, when it comes to health, a lot of urban legends, a lot of rumors, a lot of fear mongering that goes out there. But again, when you go back to the basics, we're hardwired for health. We have health defenses. What can we do to actually manage our health defenses, tip things a little bit in our favor, as opposed to just expose ourselves, as you said at the very beginning? We just go about our lives, and then if something breaks, and we got to actually go to the specialist. What can we proactively do, mindfully do, to live our lives in the healthiest way possible? Because Mother Nature actually gave us a lot of what we need. Okay, so as it relates to fruits and vegetables, because I want to go back to John for a second. Um, you know, even though everything is largely safe, I would say that it's still prudent, because all it takes is for one contaminated grape or strawberry or whatever to actually make you sick. It's prudent to make it a habit to actually wash your fruits and vegetables. Now, a lot of people don't know how to do this properly. The best way to actually wash fruits and vegetables is to run it under cold water, running water, for 60 seconds. So I don't know how fast you sing happy birthday, but basically, if you can do 60 seconds worth of it, and then in cold running water, not soaking in something, but running water, so you're rinsing it off, then you're good. Now, why is this important? Number one is any natural bacteria that might be around. The other day, I posted this on YouTube. I cooked some fiddleheads. These are little seasonal ferns that are wild picked from the woods, and they're little curled things. They're incredible vegetables. By the way, Mayim, they're one of the few plant-based sources of omega-3s. One of the few. Okay. And they're packed with them, and also vitamin C. Anyway, I love them. It's a springtime thing. You can find them on the East Coast and in the Pacific Northwest. And these things are picked out of the woods, literally wild forage. You bet I actually washed those things really, really well, because they came out of the woods.
Feces.
Well, they're covered in the soil from the woods, right? Now, here's the thing. When you're actually putting something in your mouth, you want to really make sure that you're washing it really carefully. And by the way, I put the video of my cooking because I knocked it out in 5 minutes. I like to cook. So, and I think that, part of the joy of health can be aligned with the joy of eating, which I think is a great thing. So wash your vegetables. I think it's really, really important. And, there's some practical things that you can separate, when you cut meat, and if you eat meat, and how you even cut your vegetables, and how you take care of your cutting boards, and what kind of cutting boards, all those things. These are the nuances that, listen, our grandmothers probably knew really well. Our great grandmothers probably knew well. But in this era of consumerism and cheaper and more different kind of materials, like, we've kind of just like focused on the consuming part of it, as opposed to the common sense part of it. Now, as it relates to exposures, our body is an ecosystem where we respond to challenges and get stronger by challenges. Think about when you go to the gym. You're doing strength training. What are you doing? You're lifting weights, and the more weight you lift, the stronger your muscles are going to be. And to some extent, this is actually the natural process of being exposed to the environment on which we live on Earth, as we encounter bacteria and viruses and other things, dirt, so to speak, it's okay, because so long as we don't get into that dangerous territory of having a lethal bug get into us, what it does is that trains our immune system, just like strength training. Think about encountering nature, as strength training for our immune system. The more we work it out, the stronger it's actually going to get. Now, you don't want to actually drop, a dumbbell on your head. That would be like, taking a misstep and just eating a really contaminated, as you say, like feces contaminated piece of food. You don't want to do that. By the way, I got to tell you one thing. I went to a regenerative farm for a visit. It's called the Chef's Garden in Ohio. Amazing place. I went there on a tour to just learn more about regenerative farming, and because I'm doing some research with them now, we made some interesting discoveries about how that can impact the micronutrient quality of food. But as I was taking the tour, the owner basically said, "Is there anything else you want to see?" And I said, "I want to see where this triple washing of the leaves, actually the salad leaves, come from." Right? You see that in the package, triple washed. Well, because I was always very, very skeptical. All right, what the heck does that mean, triple wash? Well, they showed me. There are 3 sluices with really, really intense running water that were cleaning off through one wash, cleaning off through another wash, cleaning off a third one. You know what? It actually made me more comfortable that there was care taken for a triple wash. Now, I still wash it again myself, but I know that great care was taken for that. So again, the more we can educate ourselves about where our food are coming from, how it's been treated, again, this is on us. This is on us to educate ourselves to make those wise choices.
Why this is a controversial question, but I hope you can speak to it, from really a human perspective and as a physician. Why is the government not more interested in helping all communities have access to healthier food? Meaning a lot of the solutions for rinsing are, let's dunk it in hydrogen peroxide. It's quicker, it's cheaper. A lot of the things that you're talking about and a lot of the stuff that's in your book, which is so helpful, it's not accessible to the vast majority of people who maybe don't have access to a lot of these finer ingredients or unprocessed foods. Why is this not more of a priority to our government? We spend so much money treating cancer, hypertension, obesity related things. Like, why is this not more of a priority, and how can it be?
Yeah, well, I think that, change comes from people, communities, voters. And I think that one of the things that I'm really excited by is this groundswell of interest in questioning the quality of what we're actually being expected to consume, to eat, and to buy. It is a darn good thing for a consumer who might have saw this on social media to go to the grocery store to wonder in this package, wait a minute, are there additives? Should I be looking at the ingredient label? I mean, something that's simple. They may not know the science behind it, but just merely looking at it puts the seller, the manufacturer, on notice that it matters. Now, as you know, uh, uh, there are some signs that change is happening. The ban on the first red dye, number 3, I think long overdue, over multiple administrations, for 60 years, based on data that's been known for a long time, okay, that of cancer causing in animals. Um, Gosh, why did it take until now to actually make a move? And then
Because my
because of
kids want
that,
their red Skittles.
okay, but you know what? Their kids might not ever see the same red that
Right.
that our kids see, the same color red. The same thing could be said about Kool-Aid. I'm sure you guys grew up at like Hawaiian Punch Kool-Aid, right? Who doesn't remember the jingles and the ads that we saw on TV
Yeah.
and the summer vacations, by the beach, and you
It was the
go,
life that I dreamed of.
right. Well, listen, this is part of the quote Kool-Aid that we all drank growing
Mm.
up, is that, we as adults are the product of a system that developed after World War II
Yep.
in the 1950s and 60s and 70s that became an industrial revolution where it was more colorful, more artificial, more synthetic, more cheaper. Everywhere it's colorful. And then you have like the power of marketing and
It was the
music and
American dream,
entertainment.
right? That was the American
Exactly.
dream.
Yeah. I mean, we were living the dream. Okay.
Mhm.
And many of us, I'm certainly, I throw myself under the bus on this. My mom bought all that stuff and the kids growing up loved it. Okay. I think times are changing where one of among the bright spots of having of the information age is that it's easy for anybody to go look something up. And I think if there's one thing that I could help communicate to anybody listening or watching this is that when you go to the grocery store or a farmer's market and they're selling something that's prepackaged, okay, like in a box or a can or a jar, please, I don't care if it looks like it's going to be good for you, it says healthy on it, read that ingredient label. Pick it up, look at it, all right? And if there's something you don't understand on it, if you got a phone, look it up. And if it feels like it's something that might not be you want in your body, then don't buy it. Look for an alternative. This is how I think change happens is by people paying attention, being alert, and the signals are being there. Like, look, after the first red dye was banned, now we've got 6 other dyes that are actually being banned as well. Too little, too late in a way, right? But it's happening.
Yeah. I mean, you say these fantastic things, but like, I want you to be like underlining it an exclamation point, because to most people, if you say to them, if there's an ingredient that you don't recognize, it's probably not good to put in your body, right? A lot of people would say, it's fine, I'll be fine. What you're telling us is, guess what? The days of pretending like it's fine are over. It's over.
Listen, here's a simple way to think about this. No matter who you are, look around you or think about the community, the people around you. Who do you know with diabetes, with heart disease, who's had a stroke, who's had cancer, all right, or maybe have dementia? Recognize that all of those conditions are preventable. Not 100%, but largely preventable, or you can actually delay the time before it happens. That delays suffering. Okay. And if you realize that we can all take steps at a younger age, our body bounces back pretty fast. So you feel like you're Superman when you're younger. But listen, why would you want to actually suffer the things that those people that you know in your community are suffering? So this is where, and again, I come at this at the science. What is actually happening? What do those additives do? What does the carrageenan uses a thickener, or the sodium benzoate, or the artificial sweeteners? What do they do to our health defenses? Well, I'll tell you, one thing it does is it breaks down our gut microbiome, the healthy bacteria, 39 trillion bacteria in our gut that protect us, part of our health defenses. When we eat those additives, okay, that are very commonly used in ultra processed foods, we're actually lowering our own shields inadvertently. Maybe every now and then, not a big deal. Okay. I'm also a realist, like life is for the living. So if you really want to enjoy yourself, go for it. Just don't do it every day. And by the way, like I remember in medical school, I had a classmate who proudly told me he drank 2 6-packs of soda, regular soda, every single day. All right. And I first of all, I couldn't believe that because I could never drink. I imagine doing that kind of a stuff. But then if you think about the fact how much sugar, added sugar, that individual is putting into his body over time, over at least 4 years when I knew him. Okay, that is a frightening amount of assault to your vascular system, to your microbiome. That why would you want to do that? So we didn't know that before, but we know that now. How do we communicate that? I mean, listen, part of the reason that I am honored to and love to come onto your podcast is really because this is an opportunity to communicate that our body is hardwired with health defense systems. We have no excuse not to celebrate the fact that we can prevent most of our own diseases. Our fate is actually in our hands. The younger we think about that, the more our fate is in our hands. Genetics, we make so much about genetics and testing for cancer genes and all that kind of stuff. Actually, genetics play less than 10%, more like 5% of our fate. 95%, 90 to 95% lies in our hands. So anybody who says, yeah, you know what, look at me, I'm fine, I bounce back, you bounce back now. But you keep on doing this, I guarantee you, you're actually going to stop bouncing, and you're actually going to be flat. And that's not a good thing. This is where we're going now. My work in food as medicine is to understand the foods that can light up our health defenses, make us healthier, improve our metabolism, actually help us live longer lives, more vibrant lives, better health span, as well as what foods we should actually try to cut down or cut out. That's really that life is about balance. And I think this is, from my perspective, the exciting part is that we can love our food and love our health at the same time. It's not about suffering, it's about being mindful.
The other thing that I hear you saying, which is, I think, sounding an alarm, is that we have been seeing all these diseases as different. Diabetes is different, cancer is different, hypertension is different, even dementia as this totally unrelated experience. Yet you're saying they're all interconnected based on our health defense systems.
That's right. I mean, when our defenses go down, that's when the bad guys come in. Think about it. You have a house, you got a door lock, you've got a window lock, you've got an alarm system, you got a smoke alarm, you've got knobs on your stove to turn off the fire. Imagine if you just took everything down, and let everything go. Depending on the neighborhood you live in, the home invaders are going to be coming. And I think that's really where we are today in society. We're suddenly waking up to this fact that there's the burden of chronic disease, not just in terms of economics, but in terms of human suffering. We're realizing we can't be doing this anymore. In fact, the health system itself, the medical system itself, is going down on a knee to say that we can't be doing this anymore. We can't treat enough people to be able to really avert the disaster that's actually happening in society. So we need to do things in a different way. That difference is actually using food as medicine as a start. Diet and lifestyle make a big difference. So does stress management, so does sleep, so does exercise. And these things are not new because we've been talking about them for decades, actually. What is new is the level of specificity of the science, the data that helps us understand why they're important.
I want to talk a little bit about the 5x5x5 framework. This is from Eat to Beat Disease, the new science of how your body can heal itself. I love a list. I love a checklist. I love an appendix. And what never occurred to me, I'm told to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables and eat whole grains and things like that. But it never occurred to me to learn about the categories that these foods fall into. So you break it into kind of different defense categories: angiogenesis, regeneration, microbiome, DNA protection, and immunity. And I really like this method because what you do is you present a whole list of foods, and I get to go in and decide what are the things that I actually enjoy eating. But once I know which category those fit into, the idea is to not overload on one of these categories. The diversity that many of us are taught about, right? Eat a variety of things. You're taking it to this next level of eat a variety of foods that are tackling different aspects of metabolism, protection from cancer, right? Can you talk a little bit about this framework? And Jonathan wants to know why the only meat on there is dark chicken.
Okay. First of all, you're absolutely right. People love to have lists. It's helpful. Helpful for somebody else have done the heavy lifting to organize it for you. What I do in my book is by creating these lists, I further invite you to take a highlighter or a pen or whatever works for you and circle the foods. Just go to the page, circle the foods on the list that you already like. All right. And if you want to cross out ones you don't like, that's fine too. All right. And if there's a food there that, like you scratch your head and say, I haven't had this before, I don't know. Put that on your to-do list to try at some point because you just might like it. You might have a new favorite food you haven't actually experienced before. That's life. It's part of the adventure of life. Now, the way that I actually came up with a rubric that I think anybody can follow to eat to beat disease, how to use food as medicine, is to make it as second nature as possible. So on average, well, first of all, so we have 5 health defense systems. Angiogenesis, our circulation defends us, our regeneration, our stem cells, our gut microbiome, our DNA protection against mutations and slows down aging too, as well as our immune system to slow down inflammation, but give us defenses. All right. These are our 5. You get 5 fingers, you get 5 health defenses. Easy to remember. Now, if I told you that on average, most of us encounter food 5 times a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe a couple of snacks or dessert. All right. Every single time we encounter food, it is a shot on goal that we can have to activate at least one of our health defenses. Why would you take that advantage and to activate one of your health defenses? That's doing something good for you. And the reason I put these lists together is that, guess what? Just take a look at the ones that you circle that you already said you like and go right for those. Because if you choose a food you already love, you're already way ahead of the game. And now you know you're activating your health defenses. So as you get what I found, and listen, I teach a course, an online course. This is my 5th year on it now. I have 6,000 people from 90 countries who've actually taken this course. And it teaches people how to actually eat to beat disease and make it second nature like me. All right. In the beginning, you want to refer to the lists and things like that. That's why we have a phone you can take a picture on. You can put it onto your photo album, and you can flip it open the next time you're at the grocery store, the farmer's market. There's always something that you can actually find that's healthy. The other thing that I wanted to do by making this list is not to make people a slave to eating only 1 or 2 or 3 things. I personally hated the idea that, you have to be tethered, chained to the salad bar. I couldn't do that in my life, like that's not interesting enough to me. And so I love the fact that as I was doing my research, you can find bok choy, you can find kale, you can find spinach. And by the way, when you start combining these ingredients, like one of my favorite dishes for spinach is not raw spinach like Popeye. I think Popeye had it out of a can, I think. But you know what I do? Like, here's something I'll tell you. Like, here is a 5-minute healthy spinach dish that's good for your brain. All right. So I take extra virgin olive oil, I heat it up. You got some polyphenols in high quality extra virgin olive oil, some healthy monounsaturated fats. I chop up a little garlic, throw it in there. You season up the olive oil. It smells really great. The garlic has allicin. It's anti-inflammatory, helps your immune system, and lowers your cholesterol at the same time. All right. I'm just getting started now, right? We're into like only 60 seconds of preparing this dish. I wash some lettuce, 60 seconds running water, John. Okay, make sure everything's good. I pat it dry. All right. I throw the spinach right in there to wilt it. I throw it on top of that. I throw in some golden raisins, some toasted pine nuts. If I have a little bit of vegetable stock, if I just want to keep it vegan, or if I put a little chicken stock, and then if you have some white wine left over in your fridge, put a little splash in there. Okay, sprinkle some dried chili flakes, a little bit. Boom, your Akkermansia is growing. The nuts giving you dietary fiber. Okay, you get my drift. 5 minutes, I'm done. I am serving you a Catalan Spanish dish from the Mediterranean that is so delicious. And the natural nitrates in the spinach, when they encounters the healthy gut bacteria in your tongue, your tongue microbiome, will actually convert the nitrogen from natural spinach, into a form when you swallow it, gets absorbed into your body, into your bloodstream as nitric oxide. That nitric oxide immediately relaxes your blood vessels. So you chill out from a vascular perspective, lowers your blood pressure, which is a big killer, secret killer, hidden killer, silent killers for your high blood pressure, lowers your blood pressure, improves blood flow in every organ in your body, including your brain. So this is just an example of how I make it second nature to do something that I like to eat, that I will cook, in order to be able to turn it into something that actually is healthy for me. And if you don't want to hear about all that physiological mumbo jumbo about why it's good for you, just come over to my house and, we can actually, I'll cook you that dish.
Talk a little bit about protein in particular. The only meat that I happen to be a vegan person, the only meat that I happen to notice, it says chicken dark meat. You've got a lot of seafood options, which I know there's a lot of issues with fish and sourcing and all these things. What's your take on meat? What's your beef with beef?
Okay. Listen, first of all, I'm not a vegan, even, and I'm not even a vegetarian, although I eat mostly a plant-based meal. So I'm an omnivore, and I enjoy food. So I am unapologetically somebody who really wants my food to be tasty. All right, and I'm open to different types of food. The question is, what are the best foods for you and why? So when I wrote my book Eat to Beat Disease, I put in dark chicken meat because it turns out that the dark meat, which is the thigh meat of healthy chickens. I'm not talking about factory raised chickens, stacked like prisoners. They're not healthy. Okay, but chickens that are allowed to run around and and eat healthy foods, they develop in their meat, in their thighs, something called vitamin K2. K, like, Karen, number two. That vitamin K2 is a powerful regulator of healthy circulation, and it can cut off the blood supply to cancers that are growing in your body as well. So here's a reason, besides it's a moister, more tender meat, less expensive, easier to cook, chicken thigh, compared to the breast meat. So here's the other thing is, like, we've been marketed, conditioned to think that you need to have a gigantic, piece of white chicken breast to actually get the good stuff. No, chicken thighs are actually the better choice. Actually, now if you want to actually make it more optimal, please trim off the fat, because there's a lot of fat that often gets sold, that's sold along with it in a package. So that's the chicken aspect of it and why it's actually good. Now, I will also tell you that if you look really, really closely in my book, Eat to Beat Disease, I also do mention a few exceptions to the rule. If you really wanted to knock yourself out and treat yourself to something that, it might be considered categorically bad. Yeah, maybe not as bad as you think. All right, and every now and then, if you want to treat yourself to it, maybe there's a reason for it. So it turns out I actually put the couple of hams, actually, types of ham in that book. One is prosciutto di Parma, okay, because it turns out, and the other one is Serrano ham, Ballotta, the Spanish ham. These are actually from pigs raised in Italy and in Spain. They are carefully fed chestnuts, okay, and natural tree nuts, okay. And what happens is that the healthy omegas from the tree nuts actually winds up lacing their fat. So you can actually get some of the healthy fats from eating that. And the reason I actually put those down is that most people don't eat a lot of it. You just have a couple of slices to whet your taste buds. So again, if you're vegan or a vegetarian, you're not going to be worrying about that. But same thing with cheese. By the way, we talked about Lactobacillus reuteri and sourdough bread. Do you know what else is a starter for Lactobacillus reuteri?
I feel like the stinkiest cheese you can think of.
Actually, no, a very popular one, Parmigiano Reggiano.
That's
from
very
Italy.
stinky to me.
Really? Okay. Well, it's a chef's delight
Yeah.
to be able to use that. And it's a starter bacteria. So again, I am somebody who really tries to um, step away from the politics of food, try not to be right, wrong, black, white, good, bad, and really say, let's see what Mother Nature's delivered to us. Let's use science to examine the things that you might like to eat, or maybe the things that we shouldn't be eating. Come up with a reason. Come up with an excuse why we should eat it, or come up with a reason why we shouldn't eat it, and then try to incorporate it in a really pragmatic way in our everyday lives. And that's what the 5 by 5 by 5 system is for my book, Eat to Beat Disease. Um, I wrote another book afterwards about metabolism, because where do you take things after that? Once you get your health defenses shored up, what's the next step? And that next step is to really try to fine tune your metabolism, because we all want energy.
But mostly people want to be skinny.
Well, okay, so and that counts too, because how we feel and how we look. I never have a problem with, when people say, I really want to lose a lot of weight because I want to look better. I celebrate people's instincts for that, because look, you want to feel good about yourself. That's great. Please do. But there's much deeper reason to actually try to lose that extra body weight, because of lowers inflammation when you lose weight, and extra unneeded harmful body fat actually interferes with your ability to process have your metabolism work in the right way. And so what I sort of, where my research took me then is, what are the foods that we can eat, not the foods we don't eat? What are the foods that we can eat that helps our body burn down extra body fat? And a lot of people are really surprised that you're telling me to eat foods to burn fat. Absolutely. That's actually something that can be done. And so again, like, that's the next level. And then my research, I write about my research. I don't write about trends. But now my research is saying, okay, you get your health defenses. Then you want to take it to the next level. Now you want a better metabolism. And then the next level, where my research now is on, is looking at longevity, but not the regular, kind of textbook way, or the or the Instagram way of looking at longevity. But I'm really looking at health span, and what is the science behind that, and how do we actually get the most out of our lives. And so again, this is, to me, my journey, my contribution, my passion is really, how do we use the foods that we already love to be able to light up what Mother Nature gave us, both from a ingredients perspective, but also from our own body's hardwiring perspective, and how can we enjoy that journey of our entire life that way?
I remember many years ago, my kids are 16 and 19. And when my older one was born, we were at the height of what seemed to be this spike in autism. And everybody was kind of losing their minds. What's going on? What is changing? Like, what is happening with this increase in diagnoses? And I remember there were some doctors at the time and a couple celebrities who spoke publicly about this, about how changes in diet for children were changing some of the behavioral features of autism. And it got erroneously reported. It got reported as like, people claim that you can cure autism. No one was saying that. But what we now know, and this is not just for children, what we know for adults as well, is that certain foods activate inflammation in the gut, which is directly connected to your brain, and people who are neurodivergent, people who are somewhere on the spectrum, and people who experience ADHD can actually get alleviation of certain aspects of their symptoms from food. This is enormous, and it would change so much of people's lives. Can you please explain what are some of the food changes that people can make, both in children but also in adults, that can cause differences in the expression of neurodivergence and ADHD?
Yeah. So I wish I could give you a gift wrapped, simple answer to that important question, but I'll try to frame it in a way that makes sense for across the board for many different types of behavioral changes, mental health issues that are going on. So for years, starting when I was in medical school, for me personally, I was always taught that bacteria are bad. We touched on this a little bit earlier, like on food and bad bacteria. Must kill bacteria, must memorize bacteria, must memorize antibiotics, must kill bacteria. That was sort of like the mantra in medical school. And we had to, gosh, my brain was so overflowing with bugs and drugs that I had to memorize. And it turns out, now I realize so clearly that most of the bacteria, we do encounter some bad bacteria in our lives, but most of the bacteria that the typical person encounters in their life is good bacteria, healthy bacteria, and it's in our gut. And if it's in our gut, it's going to be exposed to the food that we eat. And the food that we eat can either be good for our gut bacteria, or it can be damaging for our gut bacteria. So let's take a look at what our gut bacteria does. Well, this idea of our gut talking to our brain is really, really profound, because it's not the tube of our gut that's talking to our brain. It's the ecosystem, the Great Barrier Reef of incredible organisms that live inside our gut, that are continuously communicating with our brain, and telling our brain, prompting our brain, to actually send out hormones, create neurotransmitters that make us feel good, or if they don't send them out, make us feel bad. And so it's too easy to say, well, we've got 39 trillion bacteria, so we just need better bacteria. This is where the research is. We're really trying to get as specific as we can with the best possible research. Are we finding certain bacteria that maybe negatively influence brain development? So you wind up actually being less connected when you're small, maybe even on the autism spectrum. Are there ways that you can add certain beneficial bacteria that can alter that. There are studies now looking at bacteria like Akkermansia, certain lactobacilli. These are just categories of bacteria that, whoa, there's something called PS128. It's a kind of healthy gut bacteria. It really clearly can alter Parkinson's symptoms, autism symptoms. This is not like rumor. This is research. This is real science helping us move forward to show just how important that gut-brain connection is. All right. Now, listen. Here's a simple way of thinking about it. When you eat food, if you have something you really, really enjoy eating, if you're like a bon vivant or you're somebody who just really enjoys, there's some favorite food, you actually feel good even when you see it. And when you start eating it, you also feel really good. If you eat too much of it, you start feeling crummy. And we all know that there are certain kind of foods, if you eat a bunch of it, you're going to feel like crap the next day. Okay. So we do know our gut influences how we actually think. The science, though, is that our gut can actually influence our mood. There is a bacteria called Lactobacillus reuteri, Reuteri, Lactobacillus reuteri, natural human bacteria normally found in the gut, became much less predictable in the human gut after the antibiotics came out in the 1930s and 40s. Okay, maybe you have it, maybe you don't have it now. Pretty sensitive to antibiotics, by the way. This bacteria is amazing because research has now shown this bacteria helps us have better blood sugar, better metabolism. This bacteria helps lower inflammation, Lactobacillus reuteri. This bacteria also text messages our brain to release the social hormone oxytocin. Oxytocin is a hormone that that we feel when you hug a friend at an airport when you haven't seen them
Oh,
for a
it's
long
the
time.
orgasm one. Come on, Dr. Lee.
It is orgasm. Also, the deep French kiss one. It's also just when you're feeling really good with people that you're with, along with dopamine, along with serotonin. All these are all a collection of hormones that actually are make us feel good. All right. Here's one bacteria that we know we're teasing it down that can actually have a positive influence. So where do you find Lactobacillus reuteri? Well, you can buy it as a supplement. I take it every day, by the way, because I don't get paid for it. I'm just telling you, this is why wouldn't you do something that you know can actually put you in a better mood that we don't have enough of often in our body. But there are other foods that actually can have Lactobacillus reuteri. It turns out that sourdough bread, the tanginess of sourdough bread is actually the starter bacteria is Lactobacillus reuteri. Amazing. Don't eat too much of it because it's a carb, but having a little bit of it, if you had to have a starch or a bread, that's a good choice. By the way, you might say, well, when you're baking bread at 400 degrees in the oven, doesn't that kill the bacteria? Yes, it does. However, studies have shown that if you take Lactobacillus reuteri and you pulverize it with ultrasound, so you just like turn it into fragments, okay, and you put it in drinking water in a lab, and you feed it to mice. Guess what? Even the fragments of the Lactobacillus reuteri will cause the brain to release oxytocin. Okay. So, by the way, Akkermansia is this other bacteria that I've been studying. It actually is super important to have this bacteria in your gut if you are a cancer patient and you're getting immunotherapy, which is the most advanced type of therapy. You need to have Akkermansia. If you don't have Akkermansia, you're very likely not going to respond. Your immune system isn't strong enough because the Akkermansia helps to control your immune system. Now, guess what? More research has shown not only does Akkermansia control the immune system, it controls our metabolism. And in fact, one piece that controls the metabolism. So think about Akkermansia as a gut bacteria. Think of it like a ladybug. Okay, it's like a little tiny piece with wings and like a shell on it. There's one piece on that shell of Akkermansia called P9. P is in Peter. 9. Okay, this one piece, you know what it does? It causes our gut, this gut bacteria causes our gut to release its own natural GLP-1, which is what prescription weight loss drugs try to do. Here's a bacteria that can actually get some of this into your system naturally, make your own body produce it, right? So this is, again, the type of deep dive work that we're doing, like scientists like me, people who study food as medicine, we're beginning to understand if we want to have a better brain, we need to have a better gut. And our gut is part of our health defenses. And by the way, better gut health not only protects your brain, but it also protects your vascular system, better blood flow, better heart, better protection against cancer, better immune system, and also more resistant to infections from the outside world as well.
How do you get that acromantia and the sourdough starter, which I don't remember the name of?
Oh, sourdough starter is lactobacillus and reuteri, reuteri. So you can, first of all, you can get it as a supplement if you wanted to. But anybody who makes real traditional sourdough bread, any baker, any French baker, okay, they actually save the mother of the starter generation after generation. It's all lactobacillus reuteri. By the way, this lactobacillus reuteri has been around for centuries in the baking world for sourdough. It's actually evolved into its own subspecies that's specific to sourdough bakers. All right, so it's amazing, like, how we've actually participated in evolution. But again, I'm not telling people to eat sourdough bread. I'm saying that if you're going to eat bread and don't eat too much of it, sourdough is actually a pretty good choice. Now, the other question about Akkermansia, okay, how do you grow your own Akkermansia? Well, Akkermansia loves to grow in our body, and we can grow it just like spring flowers. You want to grow tulips? How do you grow tulips? Well, you got to get some bulbs, and you got to plant them in the garden. You got to feed them all the right things at the right time. They'll actually blossom, right? And you have a beautiful garden. So think about your gut microbiome in the same way. We can influence it by, the soil, the quality of the soil they grow in, and then just actually giving them the right starter material. So for Akkermansia, it turns out there are some foods. Maybe I should back up 2 seconds to give you the little context. 2017, I helped to convene with some other world leaders a cancer conference, a research conference in Paris called Rethinking Cancer. And we had one rule in this state-of-the-art cancer research meeting, which is that you can't talk about chemotherapy, can't talk about surgery. You got to remove all the drugs out of it. All right, all the chemo stuff. How do you have a cancer meeting without talking about chemo or radiation? Well, it's very interesting what surfaces when you put that filter through it. All right. Now you talk about diet and lifestyle and mental health and and all the other things and exercise, things that are really important, right? That are blocked from normal cancer conferences where it's all about the drugs. Well, we had a amazing speaker. Her name is Dr. Laurence Zitvogel from Paris. She's an immuno-oncologist who basically had an embargoed study, meaning that she had research results that were ready to be unleashed onto the world in a major publication. We were the first ones to actually hear about it. And she looked at 200 patients who had different types of cancer being treated with immunotherapy, which is not chemo. It actually boosts your body's own immune system to knock out the cancer. Instead of having the patrolman looking for the drug dealer in the quiet suburban street, now you're actually taking Navy SEALs and patrolling the street with immunotherapy to really knock out cancer in your body. It turns out that only 20% of people actually respond to immunotherapy. Man, does that suck? Why not more people? Turns out that the difference between responders and non-responders is that the people who responded had Akkermansia in their gut. And if you didn't have it, you probably were not going to respond. This is not nice to have. This is like life and death kind of stuff. So at the time, there were no Akkermansia probiotics you could possibly get. Now you can buy them. All right. But at the time, this was like smoking hot research, which is really the world that I live in, is all this breaking news stuff. We only had food to be able to grow Akkermansia. What grows it? Pomegranate seeds and pomegranate juice. All right. The elagitannins, these natural bioactives in pomegranate seeds, actually will grow, and juice will actually grow Akkermansia. What else? Turns out dried cranberries will actually grow it. Okay. They can be whole cranberries, but whole cranberries are pretty tart. Dried ones, a little easier to eat. You can eat more of them. Concord grape juice. You ever when you were a kid have, I know, Mayim, you probably like me, grape candy. You're like, well, that grape flavor was modeled after the Concord grape, which is grown in Concord, Massachusetts. Actually, there's a real grape that actually tastes like that. That's natural, not artificial. Well, it turns out Concord grape juice or Concord grapes actually can grow Akkermansia, and so can chili peppers. So spicy chili peppers, you want to put some, dried chili flakes, or you want to have some sriracha sauce. That actually can grow Akkermansia, and so can Chinese black vinegar. You ever go to eat soup dumplings at a Chinese restaurant for dim sum? They serve it with this little black sauce on the side. It's not. They do have sometimes soy sauce, but it's just black vinegar. That's it. That black vinegar will grow Akkermansia. So we now know that there are different kinds of dietary approaches to coax our body, naturally fertilize our gut to be able to grow this key bacteria. This is kind of where we are with food as medicine. We're not at the end; we're really at the beginning, but what we're seeing already is so exciting, so empowering. You know, anybody listening to this can go out now and take one of these tips that I gave. Pomegranate juice, by the way. By the way, in studying food as medicine, I also think about food doses. If food is medicine and medicine has a dose, how much pomegranate do you need to have?
That was going to be my question.
About 8 fluid ounces, 2 shot glasses worth of pomegranate juice. And and that's enough to grow your Akkermansia. The reason you don't want to have more in this case is that pomegranate juice is very, very sweet. All right. And you don't want to have too much of the sugar from that fruit. So all you need is about 8 fluid ounces, and you'll actually get what your body will get what it needs to start growing it.
Jonathan and I both use the really bitter, disgusting pomegranate juice. We put it in our smoothies.
That's fine. Whatever floats your boats, whatever works for you. I would say again, anybody buying pomegranate juice, please look at the ingredient label to make sure it's not sweetened apple juice with a little pomegranate flavor in it.
What are some of the foods that help metabolism?
Okay. So first, let me just tell you that one of our body's own secret weapons for better metabolism is body fat. And you're like, wait a minute. No, body fat is not for metabolism. It hurts metabolism. Yes, certain kinds of fat are, but there's a specific kind of fat called brown fat. Brown fat is actually not wiggly jiggly. It's not close to the skin. It's not under the chin, not under the arm. It's not the muffin top. It's not in the thigh. It's not in the butt. Nope. Brown fat is not wiggly jiggly. It's wafer thin, and it's not around our waistline. It's actually plastered around our neck. It's under our breastbone, a little bit between our shoulder blades, and a little bit tucked inside our belly. All right. Brown fat. Now, brown fat is not white fat, which is the wiggly jiggly stuff, or visceral fat, which is packed inside the tube of our body. But brown fat is amazing because brown fat is like a space heater that when you turn on brown fat, just like a space heater, it's going to draw energy from someplace to generate the heat. Okay, that heat is called thermogenesis. Thermo meaning heat, genesis making heat. So brown fat generates heat. And so basically it fires, when you fire it up, it generates heat by drawing down the energy from your harmful white wiggly jiggly fat. You can burn down bad fat with good fat. You can burn down white fat with brown fat. Now, why is brown fat brown? Well, because the energy generating, heat generating engine of brown fat is our mitochondria. Now, mitochondria, I think most people who are like biohackers and following longevity probably heard about mitochondria. These are the tiny little batteries that are powering our cells, and they generate energy. Okay, it turns out brown fat is packed with mitochondria because it's actually like a space heater. It's got a lot of heat generating, energy generating things. Now, so how do we know that there's a lot of mitochondria in brown fat? Well, it turns out mitochondria are loaded with iron. Okay, the element iron, kind of like nails are made of iron. And what happens when you take a pile of shiny silver nails and you stick them outside for a couple of days? They turn brown. It turns out that the iron-rich mitochondria packed in our brown fat oxidizes just like a pile of nails on the porch. And that's why our brown fat is brown, because it's got these battery packs that are in there. So what are the foods that actually turn on our brown fat? Turns out beans, white beans, brown beans, black beans, fire pinto beans, kidney beans. There you go. Mayim, you're golden. And actually studies have been done showing that simple grocery store canned beans, like if you have them 5 days a week, can actually help you activate your brown fat to burn down that harmful white fat. In fact, one study showed that you can lose an inch of waist circumference. Think about one extra notch in your belt you can tighten just over a month of eating beans like 5 times a week. All right. Another food, onion. It turns out that quercetin is a natural bioactive, a polyphenol that's found in onions. By the way, a lot of the quercetin is found in the outer layer of the onion. So when you get your onion, if you want to get the highest levels of quercetin, don't be too aggressive and peel off all that outside stuff. Get the papery skin away, but keep as much of the outer layer as possible because that's where the most potent quercetin actually is. That will turn on your brown fat as well. Green tea, matcha, and some black teas will actually turn on your brown fat as well. A fermented tea, there's a probiotic tea called Pu-erh tea. Pu apostrophe E-R-H. Pu-erh tea comes from the village of Pu'er in China. Back in the days of the Silk Road, when trading was occurring between the East and the West on camelback, they wanted to bring tea over there. They figured, you know what? It'll actually preserve a lot better if we actually ferment it. So it's a really, really smoky tea. It's known as a digestive. When I was a kid, I remember going to like my grandfather, great uncle's kitchen, and they would be sipping after dinner a little thing of Pu-erh tea. I'm like, no, it's really smoky. Oh, it's a digestive, helps your gut. Yeah, it helps your gut. It is a probiotic tea. It's got its own bacteria that actually evolved over thousands of years to be in Pu-erh tea. That actually helps you turn on your brown fat as well. So you can kind of see, and this is in my book, Eat to Beat Your Diet. Eat to Beat Your Diet is not a diet book. It's an anti-diet book because it tells you how you can actually leverage and harness your own body's hardwiring in terms of metabolism to be able to fire up your brown fat to burn down your white fat. So those are just some examples. There's more than 200 foods in my book that actually could do that.
Love that.
What are the top foods that you would tell people to avoid?
Avoid. Okay. I spend most of my time telling people what foods they can add, but for sure, there are foods that people should avoid. And just, for the record, I'm somebody who chooses not to demonize brands, and I don't like character assassinate entire categories of food because, hey, look, we all love to eat something. There are all things that we like to eat that aren't so good for us, and it's okay. That's human nature. You got to accommodate for that. But on principle, what are some of the things that you should definitely avoid? Well, I would say number one is regular soda. Regular soda packed with added sugar is a metabolic overload. There's no reason to actually have to regularly drink soda because there's so many other ways to actually get what you really need are water, the liquid for hydration, and you can actually have other choices that have good things in it as opposed to those empty calories, so to speak, of sugar and soda. Second is a kissing cousin of soda, regular soda, which is diet soda. Artificially sweetened sodas, to me, I've never liked them. I've had them before. They make me feel not so good inside, and it turns out there's a reason. The aspartame, the sucralose, all these kinds of artificial sweeteners and non-nutritive sweeteners. Yeah, they're non-nutritive. They don't actually get absorbed to our bloodstream and raise our blood sugar. But you know what they do? They tumble all the way down our gut to feed our gut microbiome. And guess what? They're toxic to some of the good bacteria. So by having non-nutritive sweeteners, we're actually poisoning some of our good bacteria. That good bacteria lowers inflammation, tries to, text message our brain like, no wonder I didn't feel so good. Second, all right. Third thing I would say is ultra or processed meats. Now, look, I know you're a vegan now, but think about it. We all grew up, at the carnival, on the 4th of July, on some holiday.
A hot dog. We love a hot dog.
The hot dog, right? I mean, think about it. Like it brings us back to childhood or the grill, well, it turns out that, what about the deli? The lunch lady at school or the lunch or the bag of lunch that we got our moms packed for us, that deli. Here's something, like, the salami or the sliced ham. Do you think that ham pigs actually come in the shape of that circle disc? Bologna, it doesn't come in the shape of a tube, so that's processed meats. And although we don't know exactly why it does this, these processed meats as a category actually are harmful to the DNA in our gut and are associated with a higher risk of developing colorectal cancer, gut cancer, and other types of cancer as well. So, in fact, the World Health Organization looks at processed meats, deli meats, sliced meats, sandwich meats, you name it, as a class 1 carcinogen. So there's enough evidence to actually throw them under the bus of cancer causing. So if you have it every now and then, that's fine. But that is not my choice to actually go out to, a sandwich shop to go get a sandwich whenever I want to eat something for lunch, because it's just not good. So that'd be another thing to cut down or cut out. Every now and then, if you really want one, knock yourself out, but do not do that regularly. Okay. Other thing I would actually say, to be really careful about, and to cut out is alcohol. Now I have a very specific position on alcohol. First, no matter what it is, red wine, beer, liquor, whiskey, vodka, in no case is the alcohol, which is a chemical known as ethanol, okay, in no case is ethanol ever good for you. Ethanol is a potent cell toxin. It kills what it touches, okay? It kills everything in its way, in its line of sight when it comes to your body. So even when they say red wine is okay or drinking a beer might be okay, listen, it's not the alcohol, it's the other stuff extracted from the skin of the red grape or the hops of the beer that's actually beneficial. All right. That might be beneficial for you, but the alcohol in every single case is toxic. If you drink too much of it over time on a regular basis, you are going to be poisoning your liver, your brain, your heart, your muscles. I mean, all kinds of your nerves, all kinds of things are going to start to go. All right. So, what's my other position on alcohol, besides stating those scientific facts, is that ever since humans started to grow and cultivate grains and we've been fermenting them, we've actually been using some type of alcohol to celebrate events in our lives.
To numb the pain of being human.
Well, to numb the pain, true. That's well said, but also to celebrate the joy of being human too, right? Your graduation, your wedding, your holiday, your job promotion, whatever it is, something or some accomplishment, we do it. So I think that it's also important in this conversation about food and health to celebrate our humanness, to allow us to celebrate our humanness as well. And so I think for alcohol, that's another one that I would say cut down or cut out. But that's actually not something that I would say you should really kind of avoid. And then the last thing is really ultra processed snacks, and I grew up with them. I mean, surrounded by boxes of candies and things that squirt, little jellies and jelly liquid, and the chips with the barbecue and all these interesting flavors that are really kind of addictive to have.
Cool Ranch.
And listen, if you pick one of those things up now, even once in a while, it's not going to kill you. But please, if you're in the grocery store and you feel tempted, to pop something into your cart, pick one up and really look at that ingredient label and say, is this something I want to be feeding my health defenses? Do I want to be feeding my children, my family, these elements? And the answer is probably no. Put it back. There are other healthier choices in almost every category of food that doesn't have all those additives, artificial preservatives, artificial coloring, artificial flavoring. And what I'm hopeful on is some of the moves that are being made, even at the health policy level, is to try to reduce our exposure after decades of just nonstop use of these dyes, food colorings, that have been banned elsewhere in the world. Like, why on earth are we okay with that? So I think that those are some of the foods that I would say are on the no-go list.
Very, very helpful. A few clarifying questions, because as we learn about the dangers of, for example, artificial sweeteners, new quote unquote natural alternatives come up to help people get around the fact that they don't want to have the diet sodas. So, for example, what are your thoughts on stevia? I know there's a couple different forms. Is that safe? Because that can be added to a lot of natural products or products that are marketed as natural.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think you said the magic word that really pins a tail on the donkey here, which is marketed. Marketing is what a company should be doing to help its shareholders make more money. And anything they do to sell more product is what companies are set up to do. Makes sense to me. As a consumer, though, we're on the other side of the fence there. We are the people that should be smarter than marketing. We should follow our gut, literally. We should actually follow our brain. Oh, gut and brain are connected. All right. And we should really make good judgment. We should make good decisions. And that means that whenever we're picking up something, we should be thinking, is this something that we should be doing? And where you're talking about like these alternatives to synthetic sweeteners.
It's also monk fruit extract gets marketed as a sugar alternative. And
Yep. Allulose is another one that's been out there now. Okay. That's the newest one. So here's what I would tell you. Stevia, monk fruit, those are actually plant-based sweeteners. They're super, super sweet. And they seem to be okay. They don't seem to damage the gut microbiome. Well, we're still studying that, but so far, so good. So if you're one of those conservative people that say, I'd rather not until we have more information, then don't do it. And if you're like, okay, until they find a problem, I think I'll try that as an alternative. That's probably okay to try right now in moderate levels. Got to be moderate. However, I will tell you, here's where the trick is. Some packages, some manufacturers that have stevia labeled on the front or monk fruit labeled on the front, actually, it's not 100% stevia or 100% monk fruit. Look at the ingredient label. You'll see stevia is pretty expensive, pure stevia. So they actually add aspartame or sucralose instead. And then they add a little bit of stevia. And because it's an ingredient in it, they make it really big letters. And you, the sucker, actually just pick it up and take it hook, line, and sinker, right? I mean, that's like, don't be the fish swimming by the dock with a fisherman on there with a worm that's just dangling right in front of you to take it, right? You're going to get caught. And so to me, what you want to do is you want to pick up that package and look at the ingredient label. And if it's stevia, make sure it's all stevia and don't use too much of it. And by the way, there's some other natural sweeteners like, hey, listen, who doesn't have a sweet tooth? I think that if you use some honey, that might be another way of sweetening without like going too far over the edge. Maple syrup is another natural sweetener.
Agave, lower glycemic
Agave
index.
is another one. But again, like agave is a good choice as well. But again, everything in moderation. You don't need to make it cloyingly sweet. That's the key thing. I think some of the things that we're used to, that we grew up with, that are, really, like they really tickle our brain's sweet tooth. They are just cloyingly sweet, and that's not good.
What are your thoughts about grass-fed beef? I was curious to see that it is not on there. A lot of, alternative health experts are saying that it has a very high nutritional value. And, if we also want to caveat, obviously factory farm beef has its issues, but what if it's grass-fed and what if it's organic grass-fed? What are your thoughts?
And what if you're eating it every single meal of the day, which seems to be what a lot of people are doing these days?
Yeah. Well, okay. First of all, as I said, I'm an omnivore, so I'll eat different types of meat, and but although I eat mostly plant-based food, and as it relates to beef, I would say beef is actually a good source of iron. It's a good source of amino acids. And so those are good things, and there's some minerals that it can be good for as well. Obviously, grass-fed is going to actually have more of the natural sources of omega-3s that are found in the tissue of the meat. So that's a good thing as well. More humanely treated, and it's the healthier cow. Going to be making a healthier meat. But I do think that in the decades of abundance that emerged in America after the 1950s, the whole idea that we can go out and all you can eat steak, or the 3-inch, Texas steak that are out there, more is not more. And if you look at, by the way, they eat beef and pork in the blue zones, the healthy places around the world that live long. They eat pretty diversely there, actually. But if you take a look, for example, in healthy cultures, when they eat meat, it's not the entree with the vegetables on the side. Usually there's a whole variety of dishes you can sample from. Diversity, anyone? With a lot of really cool, tasty, cooked plant-based foods? not the salad bar, by the way. And you get all these interesting flavors mixed together and so delicious and cooked in so many sophisticated seasoning. And if there's meat, it's sliced up for everyone to share. And so meat becomes kind of a side or kind of a condiment. And that's probably the better way to think about it. If you are a meat eater and you want to actually get the protein and the iron from beef, get the best quality beef you can. By the way, I do have something to say while you bring this up, because the alternative, and it has to do with moderation. This idea, like, if you're going to eat meat, if you're going to be a meat eater, I would say don't eat too much. 100%. Make it your condiment, make it your side, not your main. Or do it Asian style, so it's sliced into other veggies that you actually cook together, and now you've got the whole mix. You're going to enjoy the whole thing. It's going to be a bit healthier for you, and don't eat too much of it. But there are some people that believe, oh well, I want my burger, so I'm going to have an artificial, a synthetic burger, a plant-based burger. Okay, there is no ultra processed food that is more ultra processed than an artificial burger or whatever else they're making these days out of artificial meat. Take a look at the ingredient label. Okay, it's all ultra processed soy and all that kind of stuff, and it's even genetically modified, GMO'd, in order to bleed when you actually cook it. With artificial, well, not artificial, with hemoglobin that they put into the soy, so it bleeds under heat. It sort of oozes this red stuff, like a hamburger patty would. Like, that is, it's not the right idea. And so I always tell people that if you really want to enjoy meat, get the highest quality meat you can afford, and you can get access to, and don't eat too much of it, and don't do it all the time, and make it part of a diverse meal. That's the best way to actually handle people who are, and that's, by the way, why I also know that if you overeat in one area, it's going to be at the expense of other areas, which is why, the carnivore diet, okay, you can do it for a little while, but it's not going to be good for you if you do it for a long time. You really need that diversity, and your diet should be really mostly plant-based.
Is soy and tofu considered highly processed in this equation?
Interesting question. So, soy is a legume, and there are like thousands of soy products. So you go to an American grocery store, you get your soy milk, and you have maybe some soft or hard tofu, and that's it. Okay. You go to an Asian store and look at soy, it's overwhelming how many different choices there are. So, yes, there is processing involved with soy. It tends not to be ultra processed, meaning that they'll do one or two moves to it to create tofu, or they'll sell it as edamame, and it might be fresh or it might be frozen, or they might ferment it and turn it into a soy sauce. You see, and so I think that, again, try not to make things black or white, good versus evil. I think for the most part, um, Asian types of soy products tend to be pretty good. Now, by the way, those plant-based meats, a lot of soy, but it's ultra processed soy. They manufacture it, they machine it, they extrude it, they mix all kinds of other things with it, they genetically modify it. That doesn't actually count. So that's why when you say soy foods, I think we need to be really specific. Now, if you go to an Asian market, by the way, here's a little pro tip. A lot of Asian foods have additives in there. Okay, so again, you want to avoid those things that we know you don't want to be putting into your body. So even in an Asian store, even if you got soy products out there, please pick up the label. Even if it's tea, pick up the box, pick up the bag, pick up the jar can, and read the ingredient label. Make sure you're comfortable with everything you're putting in your body. It's just being an informed consumer.
Really very helpful. I heard you talking about the grill, and I'm fascinated about this because I think a lot of people are trying to be really healthy and are doing things inadvertently without knowing it. You don't have to do the whole spiel. The short version was, if you're not cleaning your grill, you're leaving residue on it that is carcinogenic.
Sure. Listen, nothing is more elementally human than actually having something char grilled, right? I mean, that like harks back to our caveman days, probably. Um, and you can grow vegetables as well. The key thing is that the fat on meat, when it actually gets to a certain temperature and it drops into the fire and it smokes, that's, by the way, what gives you that incredible barbecue flavor. actually turns into a chemical in the smoke that's a carcinogen. So if you're the griller, you know, the dude who actually has to be standing by the grill every day. I mean, like when people are coming over, I would strongly recommend you back away from that smoke because it's all carcinogen. But that stuff also accumulates not on your food, but it can actually accumulate on the grill itself. And so I always tell people, if you go to a restaurant, you'll notice that this if you're closing the restaurant at the very end, you watch how they clean it. They really scrub down their grill, their griddle. They take away all that stuff to make sure there's a clean surface. That's actually what everyone should do with their grill. Don't just like turn off the gas or put out the fires and walk away. You really want to clean it well beforehand. Now, another way to neutralize some of this carcinogen, by the way,
This was fascinating. Yeah.
is to marinate whatever it is you are actually grilling in a fruit-based marinade. Could be mango, could be pineapple, could be oranges, could be lemon, could be whatever it is. I mean, think about all the barbecue recipes, marinades, traditional Greek, Italian, Spanish, how they treat their meats, right? They've been doing it for thousands of years. It's like a traditional recipes, but the antioxidants that are found in fruit-based liquids can help counter some of those carcinogens. So that's a little pro tip that anyone can follow. And it's true for vegetables as well as meat.
Before we let you go, if you kind of had, one piece of advice for people to take from the research you do, the work that you do, how can we empower people to believe that they have more control over their health than they may think they have?
Wow. Okay. So I will tell you that here's something really, really easy that anybody can do that clearly is like the low-hanging fruit for anybody. So we all need to be hydrated. We all know that. You need to drink enough water so that you have enough blood in your system. And when you don't are hydrated, you feel lightheaded because you don't have enough blood pressure, frankly. And so you can drink. We already talked about this. Don't drink soda, regular or artificial. Um, I think if you enjoy fruit juice, you can do it once in a while. But be careful of what's in the fruit juice. And fruit juice can be from real fruits, can be really, really sweet. So, probably not the best regular thing to do. But there is a holy trinity of liquids, of beverages that everyone should understand is these are the legs of the stool for your health that anyone can do. So I'm synthesizing a lot of research to boiling it down to three things that anyone can do. And this is telling you about the holy trinity of beverages for health. Good for metabolism, activate your health defenses, good for longevity too, by the way. That's like my latest research in this area. And so what are they? I'm going to give you the most boring one first, which is drinking water. But please, if you're going to drinking water, try to get drinking water that is filtered so you're not avoiding heavy metals and microplastics as much as you can. We want to just get hydrated with regular H2O water. Okay, so that's one. That's the boring one, but it's important and it's available to everyone. Second, is tea. Green tea, black tea, oolong tea. Okay, but made with real tea leaves. That's actually but the polyphenols from tea have been found in every single study to be good for cardiovascular health, to lower the risk of cancer, lower the risk of dementia, lower inflammation, improve your blood sugar, your insulin sensitivity in every single instance. This is tea straight. Obviously, if you dunk sugar in it and you pour all kinds of other crazy stuff in it, you'll be changing its nature. Elementally, it's healthy. My great uncle lived to 104, independent, sharp in mind, and he attributed one of the things to his longevity and vibrancy to the fact that he drank tea out of a thermos every single day, all day long, green tea, picked from the mountain, the tea mountain that he lived at the base of. I mean, he also exercised. He also had a good mental attitude towards things. But tea is the second one. Okay. The third one is coffee. Coffee is good. And coffee has polyphenols called chlorogenic acid and caffeic acid and other types of natural chemicals found in the coffee bean. And those coffee beans, the chlorogenic acid, slows down cellular aging, so it lowers inflammation, turns on your brown fat to burn down harmful white fat. Okay, improves your vascular health, cuts off the blood supply to cancer. All right. And so there's not a lot bad about coffee, except if you're sensitive to caffeine.
Yes. Or if you fill it full of sugar and
Or if
fat.
well, and here's the thing. I'm telling you, the Holy Trinity in its purest form is really what is good.
Hmm.
There's no pumpkin flavor, all right, in the drive-through for the healthy coffee. All right. It's a whole other conversation if you wanted to. There is healthy stuff in pumpkin, but you want to actually, brew some pumpkin in your tea. That's a different in your coffee is a different thing. But again, by the way, these polyphenols. Here's a little. I like to give little pro tips because people always ask for practical things. For tea and coffee, don't put dairy products in it. Milk, cream, half and half. Don't do that. If you want to get the most out of the polyphenols, all right. And the reason is the fat, cow fat in dairy, all right, actually binds to the polyphenols. So when you drink it, you'll most of them will wash right through your system. You won't absorb most of those polyphenols into your bloodstream. You might get 20%, but you'll have washed out about 80%. But let's say that you like to actually have your coffee cut down. You don't want that super strong double espresso kind of flavor. Okay. Use a nut milk. Okay. Use soy milk, almond milk, any of those kind of milks, macadamia, what cashew milk, whatever kind of milk you have, almond, it's fine. That actually doesn't have the cow fat that will bind to those polyphenols, and you'll actually get that cut as well. Now, if you're going to buy those plant-based milk, please look at the ingredient labels to make sure that even though it says soy milk or it says almond milk, they haven't had other additives in there that you don't want in your system. You see, this theme comes up over and over again. It's super easy to avoid the bad stuff. You got to look at the ingredient label. And it's really easy to find the good stuff because you're probably having a cup of Joe every day, and if you're not, you should be thinking about it, or a cup of tea, or drinking water. So if I had to boil down everything, I mean, listen, I write about more than 200 foods that, if you were a chef, and I have a lot of chef friends, or if you were just like a good home cook and you just like to eat, or if you're somebody who just goes to restaurants, if you pay attention to all those food lists, Miami we're talking about, you're going to be in good shape. Just don't eat too much of it, and make sure that whatever else is cooked with is healthy as possible. But I will tell you that beverages, we all need hydration. So remember, water, tea, coffee, they will take you the whole journey, and because they can actually help counter the ravages of aging, they also are part of the secret of using food as medicine for longevity.
Wonderful. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. We're so appreciative of all of the work that you do and the way you present the information. It's approachable, and we just really appreciate it. So I recommend Eat to Beat Disease, but Eat to Beat Your Diet is also great. And just thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's a real pleasure. And, we'll keep the conversation going.
I've never met someone more hopeful and also presenting me with more devastating information about diet in my life.
What were some of the things that felt devastating?
Well, as I said, I kind of feel like he should be like ringing a cowbell. Like, guess what, people? Like, there's a real problem. And, I have friends. I have more than 5 friends that I know who've had cancer as young women. And it's like, I think about how terrifying it is, how excruciating, if you have kids and you get cancer, like it's unbelievable. And I don't think anyone would want to have that conversation with a doctor where they would say, guess what? It sucks, but our environment and the way we've been taught to eat and live likely gave you cancer. And even this came up with Gabor Mate. It blew my mind in his book when it was like, guess what? Most cancers are not like luck of the draw genetics. It's what we're eating. It's how we're being treated by a work environment that we're expected to keep up with. It's about a culture that doesn't value, honestly, the health of a mother and her child, the health of relationships. It doesn't value free time, vacation, like all that shit matters. Like when people are like, oh, people in Europe, Yeah, they walk most places. They have access to fresh food. It's part of the culture to get fresh food. It's available to people, even if you don't have lots of resources, right? The thing about the American diet is that wherever we export it, people start getting sick and dying. That's the big secret. And I want Dr. Lee to be like, people, it's like, guess what? It's us.
Even if you don't cook extravagant meals, cooking as part of a health routine.
Oh, it slows down everything about the process of consumption.
But even the pro tips he's offering, like I peeled an onion the other day and I took off 2 layers because the top layer underneath the skin didn't look great. If I had known that all the nutrients I need are in that top layer.
No, that's not what he said. This is also the problem with America. He didn't say, all you heard was, I only eat the outer rind of the onion.
No, he just said that there was the extra.
The most quercetin tends to be in the outer layers. Doesn't mean you don't get any.
I want all the quercetin. Why do I want to give that up?
You want all the quercetin you can get. One of the things that I really like that he said, I like how he approaches not demonizing entire categories of food. Like, he understands people are human. A Cool Ranch Dorito, there's nothing like it. We all know that experience.
He's not going to demonize all categories of food except for imitation meat burgers.
He did. It's a very specific brand he was talking about that has a heme protein. I didn't appreciate his analysis, but I get it.
You felt called out.
I did feel called out, but I no longer purchase those products, and I just don't. But what I was going to say is, one of the things that I got most from what he talked about, if you can condition yourself out of one dietary desire, it would be to condition yourself out of the need for sugar beverages.
Soda is one of the most toxic beverages that are out there.
It seems like, yes, you can do it once in a while. Everybody likes a little treat. But what I found is that once I conditioned myself out of it, it's like it doesn't taste good anymore. And that's a big bummer, because I used to love once in a while an ice cold Coke. When I get migraines, before I finished menopause, when I would get migraines, for some reason, the sugar, the fizz, the flavor of a fresh, had to be fountain Coke would like cure the migraine. And now when I try and drink soda, even like a sip once in a while, it's like my body won't take it anymore. And honestly, I think it's a great gift that my body has given me, because it's really something that I wish people could not feel a compulsion to drink.
It used to be that we would see smokers everywhere, right? You would see them outside of restaurants.
You'd be wafting through smoke as you walk down the street.
You used to see them in bars and restaurants. There used to be smoking sections.
They roamed around.
Do you want to be in the smoking section or the non-smoking section? And they were right beside each other. And you would be like, no, I want to be in non-smoking.
On airplanes, there was a smoking section.
Next table
there was a smoking section
would
of the
blow
airplane.
it into your face. And we began to realize the dangers and the health risks associated with that. Now,
very bad to smoke, apparently.
It may be a stretch to say that soda is in that category, but when you stop drinking soda, and I don't say this like I'm bragging or anything, but at a young age, I kind of lost the taste for soda. I never really was a Coke person. I used to like a root beer quite a bit, but it was never Coke or Pepsi. And when I sort of got away from that and I began to realize the amount of sugar and I lost the taste for it, when you look around at people who are drinking 32 ounces, 64 ounces of soda, and it's just a regular practice, you kind of have to look at them and it's like you're chain smoking. The physiological impact of having that amount of sugar is really, really intense.
But also that there is a need that certain bodies have acquired and have gotten accustomed to.
You build up tolerance for the sugar?
And it's a caffeine drip and it's a sugar drip. And I get it. I mean, we can abuse sugar like we can abuse any other drug. But it is one of those things that yeah, if there's any way, and it takes time to shift your palate. I say the same thing about switching from a dairy milk to a non-dairy milk. If you hold them side by side on day one of trying, you're gonna be disgusted. What happens is your palate shifts. As he said, the microbiome of your tongue can shift. You over time can learn to kind of lose that association. The one thing it doesn't work for me is ice cream. Ice cream will never taste good unless it's like Haagen-Dazs, unless it's Baskin-Robbins peanut butter chocolate.
Neither are associated with advertising the show.
No.
The thing about the sugar and having that much sugar is we are learning, as he said, more and more that it does impact your microbiome. And you can have bacteria living in your gut that is the result of an overgrowth of sugar that is actually telling your brain to go get that sugar because it needs to eat, and it only eats that sugar.
You're feeding that bacteria.
And you're killing out all the other positive bacteria, which then has the downstream consequence of lowering your other defense mechanisms. And then your defense mechanisms get lowered, and then you get something and you don't realize what the cause was in the first place.
The thing about this episode, every time we try and think of something positive and hopeful, it devolves into that.
Well, here's where I think the hopeful part is that, for example, having pomegranate, and I was actually just taking a shot of pomegranate juice. I wasn't even doing it consistently because I was actually realizing how much sugar is in it. And I thought, well, what's the balance there? But knowing that 8 ounces can help us grow that healthy gut bacteria, that's great. Learning, I actually always had a propensity towards dark meat chicken. Just it was more tender, juicier.
I don't want to think about it.
Here are things that I know people are still have questions about. They have questions about the best protein, how much protein. We didn't get into that yet. The difference between animal protein and plant protein, which is a conversation I think, from his perspective, move as much towards a selection of food as possible. I appreciated that.
He said mostly plant-based. Like, let's not mince words here.
He said mostly plant-based, but this mirrors what Dr. Hyman said, what Dr. Andrew Weil said, meaning that, Dr. Hyman he has protein, but it's a, section on his plate. It's not the whole plate, as he said. Make sure he has a diverse range of supporting vegetables.
Yeah, for me, and Dr. Hyman is literally on the cover of Dr. Lee's book. For me, Dr. Hyman leans much more into sort of like the biohacking and sort of the like optimizing protein and muscle mass and all those things, which I think are very important things. But I think Dr. Lee is more about so much of your health is actually in your control. No matter where you live, no matter what you have access to, there are ways to like you said, eat to beat your diet, not about dieting, but about what are actually the best foods for all these different components of your health. So, yeah.
What I was struck by, and I still am hopeful for, is that each of us have the ability to make positive choices to help build our microbiome, to help our 5 defense systems, and that we can maintain health over a long period of time.
Also, I can't help but mention that people like Bono and Cindy Crawford and The Edge are clients of Dr. Lee, and I did not know that. I don't know these things, but I was like, 2 members of U2 like Dr. Lee? That's awesome.
That's why they have been as successful as musicians.
Exactly.
They've had the longevity of their career
That's right.
because they're eating properly.
Yeah, really, really great to have him on. So from our breakdown to the one we hope you never have, we'll see you next time.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you. She's got a neuroscience PhD or 2.